Hello everyone, how's it going? My name is Dan the Tutor. Today we're going to be learning how to factor by grouping. This is one of the more advanced factoring techniques, and the way I know I need to use factor by grouping is if the question looks something like x cubed plus 4x squared plus 3x plus 12. And the reason why I'm immediately thinking factor by grouping is because there's 4 terms. X cubed, 4x squared, 3x, and 12. Has nothing really to do with the pluses and minuses or the numbers in front of the x's. Just the fact that I have 4 terms, immediately factor by grouping is on my mind. And here's how we do factor by grouping. First, I'm going to put parentheses around the first 2 groups and then the second 2 groups of numbers. And I ask myself, what do these 2 things have in common? And what do these 2 things have in common? In other words, I'm doing GCF factoring now, which I covered in a different video. But the biggest thing that x cubed and 4x squared have in common is an x squared. So to find out what goes in the parentheses, I just have to divide both of these by x squared. X cubed divided by x squared just leaves me with an x. And then 4x squared divided by x squared, the x squareds cancel, so I get plus 4. There's the first one. We're halfway done. Now for the second one, what do 3x and 12 have in common? Well, they're both divisible by 3. So then plus 3, and what goes in the parentheses is I have to divide both of these things by 3. 3x over 3, the 3's cancel, I'm left with x, and 12 over 3 is just 4. And so this is the second to last step. Now the last step is I notice that x plus 4 and x plus 4 is the same thing, which means, yes, factor by grouping will work. If these were not the same thing, then that means one of 2 things. Either 1, this is not a factor by grouping problem, or 2, you could have pulled out something else when you were finding the GCF, the greatest common factor. And so then here's what I'm going to do. I have x plus 4 underlined. I'm now going to circle the x squared and the plus 3. And my final answer will look kind of funny if you've never seen this before, but it's x squared plus 3 times one of the x plus 4s. I don't care which one, just choose one of them. It's the same thing. And so this is my answer. And by the way, if you ever have it written in the reverse order, x plus 4 times x squared plus 3, this is the exact same thing, so I don't really care what you write. But that's how we do factor by grouping. And now we're just going to do a bunch of examples today to make sure you get it. So the next one, let's say I have 3x cubed minus 3x squared plus 4x minus 4. And again, I want to solve this by factor by grouping. So the first thing I'll do is I'll group this into 2 quantities, like this. And then I ask myself, what do both of these things have in common? Looks like to me they're both divisible by 3x squared. So I'm going to pull a 3x squared out in front. Then I have to divide both of these things by 3x squared. For the first one, the 3's cancel, and x cubed over x squared is just x. And then minus 3x squared over 3x squared, that cancels out to 1. Not 0, 1. And then for the next one, they both have a 4 in common, so I can pull out a 4. So plus 4 times, when I factor out the 4, I am just left with 4x over 4, which is x, minus 4 over 4, which is minus 1. Once again, these 2 things are equal to each other, which means I did it right. And then this 4 and the 3x squared I'm going to group together for the second factor. So the final answer is 3x squared plus 4 times x minus 1. And there's our answer. Now the next one I have is going to be a little tricky. It's negative 15x cubed plus 5x squared plus 21x minus 7. Once again, I'm going to group these 2 things together like this. The thing that the first one have in common, they both have 5x squared in common. So then when I divide both of these by 5x squared, for the first one, that's going to be 15 over 5 reduces to negative 3, and x cubed over x squared reduces to just x. So it's negative 3x, and then that's going to be plus 1 because the 5x squared cancels with the 5x squared. Then for the second one, plus, it looks like they both have a 7 in common, so I can pull out the 7. And then dividing both of these by 7, I'm going to get 3x minus 1. And I look at these two things in the parentheses and I notice they're not the same anymore, which means I messed up. I did something wrong. And the thing I did wrong, if I erase a lot of the stuff because this is kind of messy right now. For the first one, I should have pulled out a negative 5x squared. And I know they're both not negative. The first one has the negative, the second one doesn't. My advice to you is if the first term is negative, always pull out the negative sign. Always pull out the negative sign. So in other words, this is negative 5x squared. That would then make this positive 3x because the negative signs cancel. And 5x squared over negative 5x squared is going to be minus 1. And see, look at this. Now they're equal to each other. And this is going to be the second factor. So final answer is negative 5x squared plus 7 times 3x minus 1. And there's our answer. So hopefully that wasn't too bad. I've got one more for us. It is 4x cubed minus 60x squared minus x plus 15. So how are we going to do this one? So first I'll group these together. Make sure you include the negative sign in this second factor. That negative sign is important. And then what can I pull out of the first one? Well, I believe I can pull out a 4x squared. And that would leave me with, let's see, divide both sides by 4x squared. The first one's going to reduce to just x. And then minus 60 divided by 4 is 15. And the x squareds cancel perfectly, so minus 15. Then for the second one, like I said, I always want to pull out that negative sign there if the first term is negative. They don't have anything else in common though, so that means the only thing I'm pulling out in front is a negative 1. Just negative 1. And then what goes in parentheses, divide by negative 1, divide by negative 1, I'm going to get positive x minus 15. And now we can see why this was a good idea, because I get x minus 15 is the same, and then the 4x squared and the negative 1 will be the second factor. So the final answer is 4x squared minus 1 times x minus 15. And there we go. That's all the examples I have today. If you have any more questions, please post them in the comments. Thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, and bye-bye.